This is Grant and Jethro from Vancouver, Canada, and you're watching the Muscle Geek.
And you're watching Muscle Geek.
You're watching Muscle Geek.
1, 2, 3, go! Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you
All right, got my water. Go throw some pre-workout in here. And yes, I always take a pre-workout or at least some BCAAs before I train. Not really because I need energy per se, although sometimes I do, but it's more of the ritual. And we'll talk about that maybe in a future episode. We'll talk about triggers or cues because that's an important part of getting yourself into that right headspace for working out. That would be a great topic for the future if one of you guys wants to ask the motivation question about, you know, how do you stay in the right headspace or how do you get yourself motivated to go in the gym? For me, it's all about those cues or those triggers, and for me, taking a pre-workout is one of those. It sets the wheels in motion. It's kind of like hitting the timer. I know that as soon as I take this, that it's a 20-minute countdown until I hit the gym. So that's kind of that first trigger for me, which it's important. Triggers or cues are such a huge part of all of our habits, the things that we do on a daily basis that we don't even put any thought to, and that includes our bad habits. So if someone wants to ask that question, I'll go into details in a future video. But right now, we're gonna go into the gym. We're gonna train biceps, triceps. I'm going to do what I can here, still nursing this elbow injury and this thumb injury. So we might have to get creative. Can't maybe do all the exercises I normally do, but we're going to go out there, we're going to hit a workout, and we're going to answer our questions. We've got a training question, a nutrition question, and a motivation question. All right, let's do this.
Woman, no woman, you show is mean, you the meanest old woman that I ever seen. But I guess if you said so, pop, pop, I better pack a thing and go. That's right.
Now I haven't used dumbbells in a while because of the thumb, but I'm eager to jump back into it. So we're gonna do 4 sets like usual, 20, 10, 10, 15. And yes, that is the rep structure that I follow all the time because it works. Not only does it work, but it makes things simple, makes things easy. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see, especially going back to the conversation we just had about habits, is that when you're always trying to recreate things and do things new all the time, it makes it really hard to get into a groove and make it just an easy habit, because results don't come from making your workouts complicated and adding all these different layers, you know, into your workout program. Results come from consistency, doing it over a long period of time. And so I believe in making things simple. It's kind of the difference between coaching philosophies in the NFL. There's coaches that have playbooks that are 6 inches thick and they think that winning is all about having more plays. And then there's the coaches that believe in having fewer plays but doing those plays really, really well, executing them. And that's more my philosophy. I don't think that you have to overcomplicate things. It's not that complicated. We come out here, we pick heavy things up and we set it back down. Don't you come back no more, no more.
Never had a wasted mind, had the time, erect and rhyme my chords, gifted lines. The flows I knows, puts the papers in pockets, swings the things, reserved in my sockets. A 10 spot, I got stacks of LP wags, corduroy slack.
Yeah, all right, there's 20. All right, so I'm gonna leave that weight there because I'm gonna come back to that on my final set and use that same weight for 15 reps. So I'm going to superset, and a lot of times what I like to do with supersets is jump back and forth with antagonist muscles. So if I just did my set with biceps, now I'm going to do a set with triceps. So as my biceps are recovering during my tricep sets, then I'll come back and I'll go back and forth. And this way, I don't have to rest much. Now a lot of times I like to do unilateral stuff, meaning one arm at a time. But then it takes twice as long. So just because I'm in a hurry, got to get through this workout quick. I'm gonna do some rope push downs. Now with these, I want you to really focus on keeping your elbows in a fixed position. Don't let them come out in front of you. Keep them by your sides the whole time. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, don't swing it. Don't use momentum. And tip number three, squeeze out. Think about pulling that rope apart. There's 20. Here's what I don't want to see with your push downs. This is what I see a lot in the gym. See people leaning forward like this, elbows out in front of them as opposed to at their sides, right here, and then pushing down like this, using a lot of momentum to swing it down. I don't want to see that. Stand up straight, elbows at your sides, chest up, chin up. Keep those elbows there. That's your pivot point. Down and out. So it looks just like that. That's the nice thing about using the rope. It gives you that ability to go ahead and squeeze out. If you're using, say, a V-bar or a flat bar, you're locked into a fixed position, so you can't do that. So that's why I like using the rope. Now we're gonna move over. We're gonna do our second set, our second superset here. We're gonna jump up and weight. We're gonna do 10 reps of biceps and then back to triceps. But before I do that, we have a training question.
Yes, we have a training question from David Anderson. Hey James, I have a question about chest activation. I'm 5'7", but my arm span is that of someone 6 foot. So I find my arms tend to take over most exercises. I usually get a good pump, but I don't get that burn in my chest that my triceps get. Any thoughts?
All right, David. So I actually have this exact same problem. Well, I thought I was 5'10" my entire life, but it turns out I'm only 5'9". Go figure. So 5'9", but my arms are as long as some of my friends that are 6'1", 6'2". So I've got the exact same problem. I've got a really long arm span, or yeah, long, wide, long. So for me, exercise like bench press were always challenging. One, I've got to move the weight a whole lot further. So if you're a guy with a really big chest, a barrel chest, and short arms, you don't have to move the bar as far. For me, I've never had a really huge, thick chest. I don't have that big rib cage, and I've got long arms. So how do I feel chest? Well, that's going to be my isolation exercises. So that's going to be, whether it's a cable fly or a cable crossover. There's different variations even coming up from down below on the low pulley. There's going to be doing dumbbell flies. Anything that's an isolation movement, which is particularly those flies, that's where I feel it. Even if you watch any of my ATT videos, I do an exercise on the cable machine where I push across just like this, single arm with the cable moving across, because that's what your chest does, is it pulls your arm across your body just like that. So now if you look here, if we're doing bench press and I'm locked into this position, hand position here on the bar, and I press, you can see my arms only go so far across my body, right here. Where's most of that movement? Well, most of that's in the triceps. So that's why, just like you, I had that exact same problem. My triceps were getting stronger, they were getting toasted in my workout, but I wasn't feeling that good burn in my chest and that good development. So I had to rely on more isolation movements. I still do compound movements. I prefer using dumbbells. Why? Because I can take it from different angles. I can come out maybe a little bit wider and squeeze to the middle, or I can even take dumbbells and I turn them face to face like this, and I'll do a press like this. Anything where I can really feel that squeeze, that's where I'll use that exercise over a traditional press. And it goes back to feeling. I talk about it all the time. You have to learn to train by feel. If you don't feel the muscle working in a particular exercise, maybe that particular exercise isn't best for you. It might work for someone else, but not you. So we're all built a little bit different. Like you said, you have long arms. We're all built different. Some people do, some people don't. So for me, that's what I've had to rely on more, is isolation exercises. So that is how I deal with the same exact problem that you have. I've got long monkey arms, like my knuckles drag on the ground, is what it is. Oh, I still feel that thumb. I gotta train smart here. I don't want to get carried away. Thumb's still pretty tender. Jump up and wait a little bit. All right. We are going to finish up here. We're going to knock out our sets, and then we're going to go over and we're going to start our next superset. So let me finish up sets 3 and 4 of dumbbell curls and triceps pushdowns.
I'm at an all-time. I've been trying to fix my pride, but that shit's broken. That shit's broken.
Okay, so we finished our first superset. Now I'm going to move over. I'm going to do some machines. Normally I don't do a lot of machines. Most of the stuff that I do is free weights and it's cables, but because I'm still nursing these injuries, that's where machines are helpful. It allows me to adjust my hand position, which we'll go over. We're going to do some preacher curls, and we're also going to do a triceps extension machine. I'll show you what I mean as far as my hand position. It'll allow me to take a little bit of pressure off my thumb. So what we're going to focus here is the short head of the biceps. That's the one here on the inside. So we are going to pull this weight off and load this thing up. Okay. Doesn't matter which preacher machine you use. Just like when you're doing maybe say a leg extension or leg curls, you always want to line your knee up with a pivot point. So here's the pivot point right here on this machine. Same thing with your elbows. Otherwise, just going to put unnecessary strain on your elbows. So line the elbow up. Now this is what I was talking about with giving me a little bit of flexibility here. Unlike a dumbbell where kind of limited where I can move my hand, I can actually put this right there in the palm of my hand, take my thumb out of it, so take a little bit of pressure off there. All right, same rep structure. 20, 10, 10, 15. Get that nice squeeze. Always chase the squeeze. Now remember, you got 3 kinds of contractions. A concentric, that's the way up. You've got the isometric, which would be squeezing it here, and then the eccentric or the negative. So you want to accentuate all 3. So squeeze the concentric, nice squeeze on the isometric, control the concentric. Or sorry, eccentric. So your eccentric is your negative. When you start really working that isometric contraction, so that's that squeeze at the top, that's why I say flexing. When I say flexing, technically, that's not a correct term. You can flex a joint, you can't flex a muscle, but when we talk about flexing, doesn't it sound cool to say, okay, contract. All right, so we did our first set here. For triceps, I normally don't use this machine over here. It's a triceps extension, but we'll do it. Just to show you that you can honestly use any piece of equipment, and as long as you use discipline, technique, get good contractions, you can make any exercise really work for you. And that's why I don't get so hung up on the exact exercise that you're doing. There is no magic exercise for any body part. You notice that little pause? That's that isometric. And then just control the negative. You don't have to do this overly exaggerated negative. Just control it. Don't let the weight come slinging back. All right. All right. Whew. So we finished here. Now we're going to jump into sets 2 and 3 where we're going to raise the weight and we're going to go to 10 reps. But before we do that, let's jump in and let's answer our nutrition question.
Yes, we have a nutrition question from Mike Collins.
Mike Collins, what's up, Mike?
I've been following the ketogenic diet for the past 4 months. What are your thoughts on keto as it pertains to muscle growth, and is it possible to gain muscle while in ketosis?
Okay, Mike. So let me try to answer this really short. Ketogenic diets are great for losing fat. Why? Because you're using fat as your primary source of fuel. So your nutrition plan has got to be a high-fat diet, moderate protein, low carbohydrates. So that right there is kind of problem number 1, because when we come into the gym, what do we know from a macro perspective? What's important for repairing and rebuilding muscle? Well, that's going to be proteins, more specifically even amino acids. You break proteins down, breaks down into amino acids. Amino acids are a source of fuel. So what happens when you come into the gym and you lift weights and you consume a bunch of protein? Well, your body's going to break down that protein and convert it into glucose through glucogenesis. That is going to take you out of ketosis. Now, problem number 2 is when we come into the gym and we train, this is high intensity exercise and we're using type 2 muscle fibers. Type 2 muscle fibers prefer glucose as a source of fuel. So when we come in here, we eat a big carbohydrate meal the day before, even the morning of. We come in here and train. You get that nice big pump in the gym. You perform really well. When you're training on low carbs, I'm sure you've experienced this, you come into the gym, you never get that same kind of muscle pump. Your muscles never feel as full. Why is that? Well, because our body stores glucose in the form of glycogen stored in your muscles and in your liver. Glycogen holds 3 times its weight in water. So what does that mean? That means cell volume. That's what makes your muscles nice and big. So if your goal is just to come in here and train for strength, yes, you can do it in a ketogenic diet. If you're coming in here to train to make your muscles bigger and fuller, it's very difficult to do on a ketogenic diet. So that is my abbreviated answer. I could probably dive into a whole lot more detail, but we got to jump into the next set here. So I hope that answers your question. I love ketogenic diets for losing fat, but for coming in here and building muscle, it's not ideal. All right, we need to add some weight on here. All right, same thing over here. Let's do one of these. All right, so we've got 2 more sets to go. 1 more set of each with the same weight, then we're going to drop back down to our original weight and do it for 15 reps. So, Mike, I hope that answered your question about ketogenic diets. Just remember this. I'm going to take the mystery out of a ketogenic diet. The whole purpose of a ketogenic diet is really to put your body in a metabolic state where it's converting fats into ketones to fuel your brain. Okay, because if you've ever done a low carb diet and you feel kind of like, lightheaded or you can't think straight, it's because your brain isn't able to operate as efficiently because it doesn't have as much glucose as it would like. Now here's the thing. You don't have to be in ketosis to get the benefits, the weight loss benefits of a ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet is no more effective really for burning fat than a low carb diet. It's that other aspect of it. It's doing it efficiently, doing it long term. But as long as you're patient, as long as you're willing to take more of a slow and steady approach, which is what you need to do anyway if you want to maintain lean muscle or build muscle, then you can still get a lot of the benefits of a ketogenic diet just in a low carb diet combined with periods of higher carbs, and that's going to be a carb cycling program.
That I'm at an all-time.
But before we jump into it, we've got our motivation question. So let's jump into that.
Yeah, our motivation question is from Grant Truesdale.
Brent, what's up, dude?
Yes, Grant.
Brent?
Grant.
Grant, sorry. What's up, Grant?
Grant. Yeah, we got Grant in the building. If you could pass on just one piece of advice to your children, what would it be?
Grant. Boy, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know, as a parent, you kind of always think about those things. What are those most important things that you want to pass on to them, just in case you're not around? And you know, it's funny, actually, as I'm thinking this through right now, I'm realizing that whatever I say right now is going to be memorialized here on the internet, which that's another good piece of advice for your kids. Be cautious what you put on the internet because it will be there forever, right? So, yeah, it's crazy. Someday my kids might, look back on this video and watch it, and so I guess in a way I am kind of speaking to them. What would my one bit of advice be? I'll tell you, it would probably be the one thing that I've lived my life by, and that's that everybody's got ideas, everybody's got dreams, everyone's got passions, but none of those are going to come to life unless you manifest them. And that requires energy, it requires work, it requires focus. It's like I always have this weird vision. I think of science fiction movies where, they turn on a machine and it turns something into matter. It materializes. And it's like maybe you have to crank up the power to, make it form into something real. And it's almost the same thing with your thoughts. You have to take all that and you have to channel it. And that's what focus is. Everyone talks about focus. Well, it's taking all of those thoughts, it's taking all of your energy, and it's focusing it, and it's doing it for a long period of time until whatever that idea is, or that dream, or that passion, until you turn it into something real. And that just takes a lot of focus, energy, hard work, and persistence. And, if you can do that, and you can do that long enough, then you can create anything. And the more time and the more energy and the more creativity and the more passion you put into it, the better it's going to be and the more unique it's going to be and the more that you can create something that's really, really special. The problem is most people don't have that kind of patience. They want something now. And it's the same thing with their goals in the gym. They just want to come in here and they want to get in shape in a couple weeks so they can pop up a new Instagram picture. And it just doesn't work that way. It takes time and it takes persistence. The greatest things in life took time. You look at, Michelangelo with the sculpture of David. He worked on that thing for 2 years. 2 years. He didn't sleep. They said he would sleep in his studio in his clothes and he would work on that thing tirelessly. And that's how you create a masterpiece. He put all of himself into it and he manifested it. And the more time and energy you put into it, the more detailed it's going to be, the better it's going to be, the more unique it's going to be, the more special it's going to be. So that would be what I would teach my kids, that, don't rely on just having dreams or ideas. We've all met those people that say, oh, I had that idea. Oh, I had that idea. You may have had the idea, but did you make it reality? So that would be what I would tell my kids. That's if I could only pick one thing, that would be it. So I hope that answers your question. And that's the one thing that's kind of been a rule of mine that I've lived my life by, because I was that guy early on in my life where I had all those ideas and I never followed through on them long enough. I was always too impatient. I would start it, but I would never finish. And so I had to learn over time to be disciplined. And I had to teach myself discipline, to stay consistent and to keep pushing on even when it wasn't fun anymore, because all new ideas are fun. In the beginning, it's cool, right? You're all excited. It's something brand new that you're starting, but then the novelty of it wears off and it's not so fun and not so cool, and it just requires hard work at that point. And that's where you have to dig in. And that's what it takes to build things. If you want to build a business, I look at what BPI is today. I can't tell you how many hours, countless hours of just sweat and tears and stress and hard work that it took to build this. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a period of time, and that's the way any great physique is built. That's the way anything is built. So you got to stay focused. You got to be consistent, and you got to put the work in. And speaking of work, it's time for me to get back to work. I've got my 2 sets here, so I'm going to finish up. So this is the end. I appreciate you guys joining. I make sure to check out the very end of this video, and that is where I have the little video of how to upload your questions and also how to submit your intro video if you guys want to be featured in this. And so just keep submitting your questions. I get lots of training questions. I get quite a bit of nutrition questions. I don't get many motivation questions. So please, guys, feel free to jump in on those as well. Not just guys, ladies too. This channel isn't just for guys. This is for all of us here that want to achieve our fitness goals. So I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate the camaraderie, and I think we got something cool here. We're just going to keep doing this, keep refining it. The last video, I loved it. We were just talking about, right? Talking about how it's starting to come together here. So I love this format. So just stick with me. If I don't answer your question, don't get frustrated. Grant, I believe, had asked several times. He had submitted, I think, 3 times. And so just keep submitting your questions. I'll get to them. I've got a ton of them. I can't answer everybody's questions, but even in the workout, I'll try to answer little questions, even if I don't address you by name. If I think of the question and maybe I didn't have time, I'll still maybe try to squeeze it into what we're talking about in our workout. So I hope you guys like it. Come back soon. And now I'm going to keep finishing this workout so I can get out of here.